So I've got I'm right there.
Yeah, he's in digital design. Yeah.
What was that?
He's
Okay, sweet.
Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I realize that my screen isn't sharing the slides, but that's because I didn't update them yet, so they're kind of useless. They're still from when we used to meet at Now, like 3 months ago. They don't have any useful information yet. But I do want to start off with a couple of notes. First is that for those of you that don't know, the bathrooms are basically straight diagonally, like that way. Just kind of go around the corner, a couple corners. Garbages are there. We didn't know where the garbages were last time, but we know this time, so that's easy. Can you hear me? I guess if I hold it up actually right now, you can hear me. But I can talk to you pretty loud already. Tonight, we'll get to that in 1 second. Let me just look over my notes. Apologies for old stuff. So yeah, first thing I do want to just check and see if anyone is hiring or looking for a job. In the tech community, yeah, go for it. Looking, okay. Angular. Any specific region, Salt Lake County?
Utah County.
Okay.
Looking, Java, full stack, Angular, JS. Would like to get into Angular or React. Salt Lake, remote, that's what I've been doing lately.
Awesome.
Preferably contract, but looking at full time.
Yeah. Do you talk to Aaron Frost at all?
I'm not.
I just know that he runs an Angular agency, I guess.
Okay.
But he actually used to run this meetup like 5-6 years ago. And he helps out here at 1-800-CONTACTS. I'm not sure how that arrangement is. But yeah, he's on Twitter. I think he's at Frosty. He's not a web Angular guy. He runs ngconf, right? So Angular stuff is all Frosty. That's who I reach out to. He's the one that's plugged in.
Also looking
Okay.
React.
Okay, awesome. Location preference? Kind of things all like solid. Okay.
I live in Oregon.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have on my head any React jobs. I try to keep my eyes open to companies that are doing like big hiring sprees. I know Divi. I mean, they're my go-to recommendation right now. We've already looked at them. But they're a React shop, and they're hiring like crazy, growing like crazy, making tons of money. Yeah, awesome. Other people hiring, looking for work.
Looking for a job, React Stack.
React, what's that?
Burn Stack.
Oh, okay.
It's that same thing.
Is that thinking? Awesome. Timeline like immediately or soonish?
2 weeks-ish.
2 weeks? Okay. Yeah, that's immediately for real. Cool. Let's see. As always, if I work at Pluralsight, if you want to talk about jobs at Pluralsight, I'm always happy to talk. I don't know what our stack is other than my team, which is the mobile team. What's that?
You guys have jobs looking for Burn Stack?
I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah. So then we used to give out books and games for door prizes. I don't know if anybody ever won one and played it or read it and it was good or bad. Okay. But yeah. You're recording tonight. That's awesome. Okay. So yeah, now we're going to turn it over to Carlo Bos. I hope he'll take a moment to talk about the careers here at NAB and then share his presentation with us.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me here today. I'm going to talk about something that is a lot of times kind of talked about in the hallways, kind of hush-hush, about careers, what we do about promotions. A lot of times it's not talked about very openly, and so I want to be as open as possible. I've been manager and director, basically in leadership for over a decade, and so I've been in those discussions, whether we should promote somebody or not, and so I want to kind of lift the veil on those discussions and let you know what kind of the secret sauce is behind that. All right, so let's talk about, let's get to the first slide. Let's see. Alrighty, so promotions is something we'd all like. I think by raise of hand, who does not want a promotion? All right, very good. That's wonderful. So Trevin, he's actually working in a job that he loves, and so don't promote me out of this job, right? So that's perfect. That's the kind of job that we all want, right? A place where we feel comfortable, where we like to work. So also, this is very interactive, so if you have questions for me, please stop me, and I'd be happy to answer your questions as well. So considerations, why would a company not, or why would the company promote, right? I mean, if you look at your company, be a little bit mindful of what's going on in the company. How's the company doing financially? Is there already a position that is available, right? Is there a position available if you want to become the CIO? Maybe there's already a CIO, right? So the organizational capacity for that position, promoting that position, is locked up unless that person leaves. And now there's interviews, right? And so how many chiefs do you need and how many Indians do you need? It's kind of the question. So that's the organizational capacity question on that. What is the budgetary constraints? And then lastly, I put down cultural concerns. And that kind of means like you want a promotion, but you just haven't networked. You just haven't promoted yourself, and you're just not on anybody's radar. Even though you're doing a fantastic job, you're just not on anybody's radar. And that's why maybe you don't get promoted. So why do companies promote, right? And so I put down some ideas. Does anyone have maybe another idea why people promote, get promoted? Why do you think I put that last one in there, external credence? Have you ever noticed at Goldman Sachs, everybody is a director? Why is that? Why is there always they're always looking for directors right over there? It's because maybe if you're not a director, nobody will listen to you, right? So it's kind of an interesting way of putting titles, and so there's kind of a title inflation going on in some companies, right? All right. Any questions on this?
So you have up there room for future leaders. What kind of runway do you just organizationally people look at? Do they look at a 1 year, a 2 year, a 5 year? Because eventually somebody's going to retire, or they're going to want to move on, and
Yeah.
just kind of
So what do you do with your leaders that you have right now, right? Do you put them on the ice sheet and push them off, and then you get a next leader in? So there's always a question, right? So how long does it take for this person to leave so you can be the director,
Well,
right?
I'm talking about more developing, because
Okay.
I think you were talking about Divvy or some companies that just have a lot of growth.
Yes.
So just in that type of scenario, just what kind of runway do those people that are, we talk about determining or developing future leaders, how big is the runway? Or maybe in your experience, how have people looked at that? Are you just always looking at hiring externally, or are you trying to grow people from within that have a knowledge of the company and what needs to happen?
Okay,
Does
that's a
that
very
make
good
more
question.
sense?
Yes. So my answer to that would be that it depends, obviously, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what is the growth of the company and what is the potential of the individual. Sometimes the company is so explosive that it's hard to find external people to fill those positions, and I think generally companies like to promote from inside rather than from outside. Especially for like manager, director. Once you hit like C-level employees, they tend to go outside a lot. But for all the other positions, usually they promote from inside. And so that's why some people like to say, in a later slide I talk about some myths about how to make promotions in your career. And one of them is, if I move jobs, then I'll get a promotion. That's not always true, right? And so, but yeah, what is the runway? I think it really depends on you. And I'm going to talk about what will make it more likely for you to be on that runway to be promoted. So if I don't answer your question by the end of this presentation, please ask your question again. Yep. Very good question though. Alrighty. Oh, here's this. Let's see. Okay, let's go to the myths about promotions. So, a lot of people think that promotions, that people are naturally recognized in an organization, that they're always, and obviously people are naturally recognized, but not always. And so, when you just do a good job, you just heads down, you perform, you're going to get a promotion. Well, unfortunately, it's not always the case. And so I put some lists on here, and I think these are kind of important to. And I would be actually, are there any of these myths that you'd like to talk about? Put it that way. I'm not a slide reader, so try to.
Every step has to be vertical.
Yes, every step has to be vertical. So a lot of times when we talk about career, we talk about a career ladder or steps, right? I see career more like a jungle gym, where you can go back and forth, and sometimes you take a step back to learn a particular skill so you can move sideways and then up again. And so, yeah, not every step is going to be vertical, meaning that sometimes you take a sideways step to learn another part of the business. So, for example, recently in my career, I was a back-end developer. I did C#, Windows Forms, back-end services like Core and things like that. And I realized that it was, first of all, I was getting bored. And second of all, I wanted to learn something else. I think career happiness is a career where you are able to learn new things, able to produce. And so I thought, okay, I got to learn new technology. So I went to some conferences, learned Angular, went Pluralsight. Where's the Pluralsight employee? Plug right there. Watched oodles of hours of Pluralsight. Got to love some of the speakers like John Papa and others who have wonderful presentations. And then I asked my employers, says, hey, we have a project, can I do this with Angular? Can I do this with JavaScript? And a lot of times you have that leeway. You don't realize how much leeway you actually have in a company if you but ask to do something. There is sometimes there's a little bit of a fear, and people will even express that, like, I don't have an opportunity to try new things. And when you ask them, did you ask? Did you try? Usually the answer is no. They'll just say no. But they've never asked, right? One of the things my mom always told me is, a no you have, a yes you can get. Meaning, you don't ask, it's a no. Yes.
And that's kind of my follow-up question to your comment is negotiating, because there's always a little negotiating in work. And sometimes, and again, sometimes it's as you say, it's somebody's feeling because they think they're going to get pulled up. But just those negotiation steps, I don't know if you have any comments or suggestions on that.
Negotiation steps are...
Yeah, because I think that's what it is when you just ask. You also have to ask in a way that's in the other person or the other party's interest to say yes or to continue to listen and explore.
Correct, yes. That's a very good point that you're making there. You can't just say, if you're a Java shell, and says, hey, let's go write all our code in Scheme, right? They're probably going to say no. So yeah, there's got to be a value proposition for both. So are there any other questions? Anything that surprised you on any of these myths? I mean, they're my myths. These are things that
What is that camp and not allowed?
that's exactly what we just talked about, right? So that is, I can't do something, I'm not allowed to do it, but are you sure of that, right? Is that true? Have you actually asked? Have you tried it? And so that's why that's a myth, because I think you can, and I think you are allowed to do a lot more in employments than you think you are. In fact, that's what gets you promoted, right? If you take initiative to do these things. So,
Everyone move.
all right. So now let's talk about some career stallers, some things that could stall your career. One of the myths I put on there is that you have to work on your strengths, right? While it's good to work on your strengths, it's also very important to realize some of your weaknesses, especially if some of these weaknesses are career stallers. And so I put some up there. Are any of these like jumping out at you? Would you like me to talk about anything else? Raise your hand. What do you mean with unable to adapt? What do you mean with lack of composure? I should give an entire talk on it.
Can I ask you what that meant specifically?
Yes, I can tell you. I have seen many times examples, including in myself, where I've lost my cool at the workplace.
Oh, okay.
That is a complete career staller. When they're
Say that
especially
again, you lost your what?
my cool,
No.
lost my cool. Yes, a composure. And so, yes, I mean the thing. A leader exudes confidence, right? Creates a safe environment. And when you lose your cool, you do not create a safe environment, and you exude that you're not sure of yourself, right? And usually people lash out because of insecurities, because of fears, because of inexperience. And so a lack of composure creates that kind of atmosphere. There are, I would be happy to share these slides with you guys. I actually wrote down a lot more on my notes in the below the waterline on my slides. But I have other ones as well. I mean, there's overly ambitious. Why do you think that may be a career stopper when you're overly ambitious? What do you think I mean with that?
I've seen myself burned out a lot of the time when I get too ambitious, and it makes me actually a lot slower after my ambition's gone.
Yeah. Or sometimes you're ambitious at the expense of others, right? That's the other one, but I like that spin on that as well.
You want to move up, but everybody knows you're not there.
Yeah, yes.
You're not top.
That's right. So you have some things to learn on. When you're overly ambitious, you become blind to some of the weaknesses that you have. Right? And then maybe our people will not take the time to be able to give you that feedback. Let's see.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
So key skill deficiencies, I mean, they kind of are an aggregate of what everyone was talking about in terms of like wanting to get promoted, but if other people see them in you, but you don't necessarily see it in yourself, how do you recognize the known unknowns that other people see? That was overly complicated, but how can you tell what's wrong with you when other people know what's wrong with you, but you don't know?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? How do you know what to work on?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you knew it, you'd be working on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, ideally.
Yes. Yes, ideally, that's true. That's a very good question. And it's very difficult, especially as you move up in the organization, less and less people will actually give you feedback. I've noticed how once you become a manager, people will tell you what you want to hear, right? When you become a director, now you report to like the VP or the CIO, right? they have confidence that you're going to do your job, and they're just going to expect that you're going to do your job. They're not necessarily going to invest time in career development with you at that level. So the more you move up in an organization, the less feedback you get. The way to get more feedback is to create that safe environment around you, where when feedback is given, you are a good feedback taker. That's my number one, right? Be a good feedback taker. Before even asking for feedback, because I can ask you for feedback, but if I've lashed out in the past, you're going to be very careful with the feedback you're giving me, right? Probably going to say, no, you're awesome, don't worry about a thing, right? And so you have to create a safe environment for that feedback to happen. And so one way to do that is to cooperate with other people, work with other people, and look for strengths in other people and compliment them and give the feedback yourself. That's another way of doing that. Feedback reciprocates feedback.
I don't necessarily want to put you on the spot. Can you think of a time, maybe in your own life or watching somebody else's career, where that lesson bore fruit?
Yeah, I can give you a feedback. So I was pretty young. I was probably about 21, and this older gentleman said to me, "Carlo, you never listen." And I took huge offense to that. And I was mad at that person, and it took me years to figure out that that was actually very valuable feedback, right? So feedback is a gift. We need to realize it, receive it as a gift, as a wonderful gift. When you put yourself in a situation of giving someone feedback, it's a hard thing to do, right? And so what would make it easier for you to give someone feedback? Think about all the things that would have to be in place for you to be able to feel comfortable to give feedback. You need to get to know them. You need to make sure that it's safe to give feedback. What they do with the feedback, they're actually going to work on it rather than discard it, right? There's a big list of things that you'll need to know before you give me feedback. And so reverse that and then do those things, and then you're more likely to receive feedback.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So I just put this slide up there. There's way too much stuff on there. Usually you should have no more than 6 items on the slide. I completely broke that commandment. And the reason I did that is just to kind of give you an idea of, man, there's a lot to consider, right? There's a ton to consider what actually gets you promoted. And so what I'm going to do in this presentation, I'm going to talk about 3 items that will help in your career to make it more successful. Not just more successful, also more enjoyable. Because if you're having fun, you don't even know that you're being productive. It's kind of it's a virtuous cycle, right? You're being productive, you're having fun, and as you're in that cycle, you're putting yourself in a place where people recognize you and people want to promote you. So I kind of put 2 columns in here. If you're an individual contributor and you like doing this and you don't like doing this, right? Sometimes people are just that way. But people just really want to continue staying on the technical track in their career. They have no interest in writing performance reviews. They have no interest in sitting down with one-on-ones. But other people do. And so if you do, then maybe the red column is a little bit more for you. And so let's be a little bit honest with ourselves. When you say you want a promotion, what does that mean? And I even had a discussion today with someone where they felt very uncomfortable about where they are and whether there even is an opportunity for career growth. And so I asked them, what do you mean with promotion? You want a promotion. What do you mean with that? Because it can mean all kinds of things, right? It could mean I want more strategic say. I want more say in the direction that the company is going in. I want say in what technology we're using. Or maybe it means I want to be able to direct other people. Or maybe it means I want a title. I want a different title. I want it on my resume. I want manager, or I want software engineer 2 or 3 or 4, senior developer, principal developer. Maybe that's what you aspire to, is to have a title. Or maybe it's none of those things, but you're communicating that, but instead it's a fiduciary concern. You just want to earn more money, right? And so let's divorce all those things from each other. Don't worry about your position. Don't worry about the money. Just put all that aside and just be mindful of your own thoughts on what you actually want at that moment. Be mindful of that. There are some exercises you can do, and one of those is, you've heard this all, right? Where do I want to be in 5 years? So write it down, and then do a gut check on that. Is that really what I want to do, right? Or is it actually, do I have an alternative motive? Because a lot of times we think we want a promotion, but then like Trevin, he understands, right? He says, no, I don't want to be promoted because I like what I'm doing. Just pay me more money, right? That's what he wants to do, and so that's perfectly fine. Other people are not happy until they're the CIO of the company, and that's what they want to do, right? But be honest with yourself. What do you really want? And I've thought about that as well. I've been the director since 2014, I think. And I haven't had a promotion since. I was like, what? Why? Am I failing in my job? No, I'm not failing in my job. First of all, I think there's an organizational capacity here in the company. There can only be so many VPs, right? So many CIOs. But there's a lot of other things that keep me motivated, keep me interested, that I love to do. For example, I love learning. And so about 3 months ago, I made the goal of learning French. And so I said I made a goal, I want to learn French. So every day I'm on Duolingo and I complete a number of lessons, right? Keeps me interested. I love to learn. Just a year and a half ago, I asked my manager to put me over the web team. I want to learn. I want to learn something new. And so I'm making vertical decisions, horizontal changes, not vertical changes, and they keep me interested and make me a more well-rounded individual. Who has ever seen the movie with Jim Carrey? I think it's called Yes Man. Ever seen that movie? And so the most ridiculous situations come up, and he's promised himself or his girlfriend, I don't remember the exact premise, that he will not say no, he will always say yes. And so the most ridiculous things come up, and he says yes. And it turns out that his life is more fuller, it's better, he has more experiences, and so basically the model of the story is say yes more often. When there's an opportunity to come up in work, say yes. Now don't overcommit yourself. Make sure if you say yes, you actually do the thing that you say yes to. But that's what people look at. If you want promotion in your company, try some different things. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, like speaking here today, right? Kind of scary. You don't know exactly what to do. Is that Trevin came to me and says, hey, do you want to speak? Inside I said no. But in the email I said yes. Right? So that's kind of how it goes. Alrighty. We talked about feedback. I want to ask you that question actually. What feedback have you received and discarded? Think about that as a rhetorical question. What feedback have you received and discarded? I think we can all think of some. And we'll excuse that, saying, oh, consider the source. That's the only person who said that. There's all kinds of ways to excuse that, right? That feedback. But no matter how ridiculous the feedback is, there's always some truth in that you can learn from. And so talk with that person, if it's not an honest feedback, and have an honest conversation. Let's see, any other questions on this slide? So some of these are actually if you don't have a job, right? So these ones right here are some good questions that you can ask yourself when you want to position yourself to actually get a job. What is your elevator pitch, right? So if an elevator ride is very short, right? 20 seconds maybe. How would you explain yourself and the value that you can add to the company in 20 seconds? And the interesting thing, and I'll talk a little bit about impromptu public speaking, which can be very scary, right? So the first thing that happens is everybody gets anxiety, right? So someone calls on me. If I were to say, go tell me what you feel about this presentation right now, go stand right here, have the microphone, right? The first thing is like, what? Right? And so the first thing you do is to recognize your anxiety and acknowledge your anxiety to yourself, because everybody has it, it's normal. And then communicate with the person in asking questions, because then it gives you some time to think, and also gives you some time or an understanding of what they're looking for. So if ever you're ambushed like that, recognize your anxiety, get it under control. It probably not go down, but it just won't escalate, right? And then ask some questions, and then be ready with your elevator pitch. Okay, what is your brand? In the company, what is your brand, right? There are some people in our company, like there's Ken, for example, in our company. He's the go-to person. If you want to know anything about JavaScript and you have a question, you go to Ken. That's his brand, right? His brand is he's a mentor. He will stop what he's doing and he will explain how this works, and he will do that. That's his brand, right? What is your brand? How are you known in your company? What are you known for? When people usually talk about you, in what ways, what verbs do they use? Sorry, English is my second language. What adverbs do they use to describe you? What is your brand? Do you like that brand? And if you don't, take some steps to change that. Any questions? Okay. This is another one of those, what the heck? Where do I start, right? And I just put this up for illustration purposes only. These ones I just Googled from the web, and there's tons of ideas on things that will get you promoted, right? And probably a combination of those things is fine, but it's just too much to focus on. If you have to focus on all of those, you just become paralyzed. I mean, where do you start, right? So I picked 3. Not necessarily presented in this list, but I picked 3 that I would like to talk about. And so let's do that. Oh yeah, actually, let me talk to you about, I'll give you an example. Personal story is always good, right? So there was a time early when I worked for this company, by the way, and I felt that there were 3 individuals, I'll just tell you my skewed perspective, right, that were out there to destroy my career, that were out there to make sure I looked bad, and would railroad me in every turn that they could. And so I was particularly so mad about this thing, so emotional about it that I couldn't really see what was really going on. And so at one point I actually even thought, okay, the only way to fix this is to get another job. And so I started to apply for other jobs, and I actually got a job offer from backcountry.com. This is back in, so this is 11 years ago, 2008. I still have saved the job offer that I received from backcountry.com. And so I had the job offer in hand. It was a good job offer. I would be making more money. It was a very interesting company that had some interesting things going on. Fun place to work in Kimball Junction by Park City. And then I thought, I wonder if this problem is going to follow me. And then I thought, I'd better leave on good terms rather than bad terms. So I called up Joe Brazel. I still remember his name. It was 11 years ago. And I said, I'm not taking the offer. I got to take care of some things here first. And so for that entire year after, I looked for things, positive things, that I could think of with these three individuals that I had a conflict with. And at first, the only thing I could think of was, they're showing up at work, right? They're here at work. They're wearing clothes. They showered, right? And then later on, I started recognizing more substantial things. And that put my mind in a whole different mindset, where I looked for good things rather than for bad things. And at the end of that year, close to the end of that year, I wrote emails to their managers on the things that I had noticed this year, the things that they had accomplished. Basically, very long complimentary emails to their managers about these people. And two of them still work here, and I'm very good friends with them, so I'm not going to say who they are. But this is more bad commentary on me than anybody else, right? But and then one person left, but I'm still good friends with him. But the short of it is that our mindset can make the world of difference as we approach our career, who we work with. And so now I couldn't be happier. I've worked here now for 14 years, and I love my job. I love this company. Okay, so let's talk about the first point. There's three. This is the first one that I will talk about that will make your career better. That will get you hopefully promoted. So the first thing is, don't go at it alone. Often, I recognize I am not the smartest person at the table, but I have things that other people not have, and our combination of the team makes us better. I know this is kind of you all know this already, but maybe you don't, right? Why don't we look for people to work with, to work together with? If you see a quality in somebody, then compliment them and say, hey, let's work together on this particular problem. Let's look for ways to make alliances, right? To not get voted off the island. So this is what you're doing, make alliances. It is very important not to be threatened. It's easy to be threatened by other people around you that are smart, that are outspoken, that continually impress their managers. It's okay. There's always going to be someone that's smarter than you. At least in my case. I don't know about you guys. But at least in my case, I know that there's always going to be someone that's smarter, that's quicker on their feet, that knows something more, that has more experience. Don't be intimidated by that. It's okay. Use those other people and work together to lift together and make projects happen. So recently, I went on the web team, and we were tasked with making the website faster. And I don't know a single thing about websites. I came from Windows Forms, right? How do I do this? It's fine. I'm the yes man. I'm going to say yes. We're going to do this. And so I worked with some of the smartest people in the company, and I'm not that person, but I can be a glue with those people. Right? And I can learn, and I love learning, and I can bring the best out of people. So that's what I did. And we got together some vendors. In fact, we got Aaron Frost to come here to work here for a little while. And so I set that up. I thought, hey, Aaron, would you be interested? I said, sure. And so we wrote up a contract. He's coming. He worked with us for a few months. He's now on retainer. And then we work with internally also very smart people to make the website faster. And so working together, I was part of that living team. And not like I want to take credit for other people's work, but together we were able to make a substantial contribution to the company. Okay, so let's see. Related skills to this, by the way, are, let me see, I'll mention some related skills to this, and if you want to talk about it, I can talk about that, okay? Conflict management, problem solving, process management, standing alone, peer relationships, negotiation, motivating others, and listening. Are any of those topics interesting to you? If not, I'll move on to the next.
What was the last one you said?
Listening. I'm slow. See, I'm not the smartest person in the room. Alrighty. Did I have a hand right here? Yes.
Yeah, I was just curious, how do you find yourself motivating others on your teams that you manage, teams you work on?
So the question is, how do I motivate others on the teams I'm on? Okay. There's multiple ways, right? Every individual is a little bit different. And so I think being able to read individuals, what drives them, what motivates them is important. But there are some generalities as well, some things that you can always do that are always winning strategies. And one of them is to have a humble approach, right? That's the first one, have a humble approach in the team. And recognizing that other people's opinions matter and are important. And to be complimentary of people around you that you work with, and to look for their strengths that intersect with the project that you're trying to accomplish. And bringing people together, being complimentary on that, really helps. And then also having interest in them, I think, is important. I would like to learn X, Y, and Z. I know that you're very good at this. Can you teach me? Things like that, right? So give them the opportunity to shine in their skill set. All right, next one. If you want to become a manager, then think like a manager. Right? If you want to be in a strategic role, then be strategic. So one way to do that is to find out what are your manager's concerns. What is he concerned about? And then ask yourself why. Ask yourself the why. Why is this person? Why is your boss? Why is your manager? Why is your director concerned with A, B, or C? Why is that? Understand those concerns. Anytime there is a conflict, anytime when there's a problem, there's an opportunity for you to shine. Because many people will just murmur, complain, even find other people to complain with them, right? But it's your opportunity when you recognize that there are issues, when there's problems, when there's conflicts, especially when your boss is struggling with them, then look for those opportunities. Even think ahead. So when you see something happening in a company, like for example, it's too much like a frat club in the dev shop, right? Think about what can you do to make that a better experience, right? When feedback is not given, when feedback's not taken, maybe what you do is you research the topic and you organize a brown bag. Talk about it, right? So when there's problems, those are really opportunities. Turn them around, right? And your boss will have a lot of those. And you'll see him struggling. You'll see him communicate. You'll see him thinking about things. When you have one-on-ones with your boss, talk about what is important, what are the problems, what is he struggling with, what is he working on, what is he asking you to do? Can you read between the lines? And so, be a strategic thinker. Once you start acting like that, right, you're acting like a boss. Like a boss. So, there you go. All right, some skills that are associated with that. If you have any interest in any of those, let me know. We can talk about a little bit more about them. Oops. Let's see. I had this slide, right?
Yeah.
This one, right? Okay. Okay, informing, action-oriented, dealing with ambiguity, learning on the fly. So if you have any questions on any of those, I know a little bit more about them.
The dealing with ambiguity is not what you're talking about.
Yes. So ambiguity basically means that it's not clear what direction you need to take, right? It's fuzzy, it's clear as chocolate milk, you know, all that kind of stuff. So what do you do? Oops, sorry. When there's ambiguity. So there are a number of things that I would do, a number of strategies. The first one is don't procrastinate. If there's anything you know what you can do them or delegate them. That's always the first rule, I think, when there's ambiguity. There's always, you can break it down into manageable steps. When there's ambiguity, when you don't exactly know what to do, you can test it, right? So I would break down the problem into little steps. You're all engineers, right? You have that engineering mindset, and know how to break a problem down into its elements. So that's the first thing you do when you have ambiguity, when you don't know. Find out what do you know. What are the elements that you do know? And then be mindful about restating the problem so that you know exactly what is ambiguous and what is clear. So you can hone on that. And then make steps that you do know what to do. If you don't know what to do, how to do it, maybe it's ambiguous. How do you say that?
Ambiguous.
Ambiguous to you, but not to others. So ask and talk to others about it. I found a lot of help in being able to talk to others, even from other departments. If you don't, sometimes it's good to talk to someone in marketing or in purchasing, or your boss's boss, right? Usually, people are a lot more approachable than you think they are. And so, just introduce yourself. Hey, I'm so and so. I'm from IT, and I would love to pick your brain for a few moments. Is that okay? Of course people want to give their opinion, right? Of course people want to talk. They want to feel important, right? They say, oh, you want to listen to me? You want to listen to my opinion? Sure, I'll share my opinion. A lot of times people are more than willing to help you out. And then as you get more and more opinions from people, and test out different scenarios, break the problem down to its constituents, then you should be able to kind of address those. The things that you do need to watch out for, though, when you're dealing with ambiguity, is to move too quickly without proper balance, and also don't frustrate others. Sometimes you can really frustrate others because you're not being specific enough, because you're trying to figure out what this ambiguity is. And then lastly, don't be too quick to reject precedents. So things that have happened before. It's okay. We've dealt with this ambiguity before, and we've done it this way. Just because we don't exactly understand why it's worked in the past doesn't mean it's not working in the future, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, last one. We're racing through these slides. Okay, so we talked about strategic thinking a little bit, and let me go through some of the skills that are required. It's creativity, problem solving, managing vision and purpose, planning, dealing with paradox, innovation management, among others. So any of those interesting to you?
So, I have a question, because I think all of these things are hitting on that, and have broad knowledge, making sure cooperation is success. One thing that I personally find frustrating currently in my workplace, and again, I don't think it's anybody's ill will, is just trying to have information and context for something. So sometimes somebody
very important topic. So, what was your name? Lisa. So Lisa says that it's hard. I think what you're saying is it's hard to be strategic if you don't have broad information, right? If you don't know what people are working on. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, that's absolutely true. And so this goes to the topic of, well, I want more information, but how do I get it? Right? How do I put myself in situations where I learn about other people's workflows, other people's problems, what are the C-level employees thinking, right? What are they thinking? And so, absolutely, the best way to do that is to start talking with people and create alliances. You're a nice person. I'm sure people will listen, right? You can create new friends in your organization. Show an interest in that, right? So it's not necessary. So networking with people is really what the solution to this is, right? But how do you do that? How do you network, right? So a lot of times people feel like networking is like a transactional relationship where I give you something and you give me something. It's a tit for tat kind of thing, right? And that got President Trump in trouble with, tit for tat and all that kind of stuff, right? It's not that. What it is, it's truly relationships. It's friendships. It's true interest in other people. And that's why I put this on here, is that most business problems are human problems. And that's hard to communicate because it's truly the case. Like what you just explained, it's not a technology problem. I mean, we can throw technology on there, create spreadsheets, dashboards, and email, but it's not technology that's going to solve this problem. It's a human problem. And because it's a human problem, it requires human action. And we love our devices. We can text, we can Slack, we can team message, we can do all kinds of stuff, right? But I think what's important a lot of times is to have these face-to-face conversations. Those are very important, to have face-to-face conversations. You can, they don't spiral out of control. Emotions aren't missed. True meetings aren't necessarily missed. They're a lot easier to find out exactly what they're meaning and not misinterpret them. And so it's easy for IT people, introverts, right, to gloss over this stuff. But if you truly are interested in promotion, you have to understand people and how they work, and communicate and build alliances and cooperation. Understand your boss. Read between the lines. Strategic thinking has to be is an emotional almost exercise that we do because it requires those relationships that we have with each other. And so look for ways in the lunch. We have a wonderful lunchroom downstairs, for example. A lot of people are having lunch. If you're a little bit nervous about talking with somebody else that you haven't met before, do it with a friend, right? There's two people sitting at a table at lunch. You grab one of your friends and you sit down with the other two people that you've never met before and say, hey, my name is Carlo Bos. I work in IT. How are you, right? It's that easy. And do that over a period of time because you're very interested in that person, in their job, in their life, and then create these alliances, right? And understand that. I was in I graduated from the U of U, and I went to a finance class. It's kind of interesting. I'm from Holland, and I started my university career at the University of The Hague, and it works very different in Holland. I just work on computer science classes, and I don't have to worry about liberal arts and all that kind of stuff, and I don't have to pay for that and just work on that. But then I transferred to the U, and all of a sudden I had to do all these generals, right? You do like arts and, oh my goodness, all kinds of stuff, right? Writing, English, that was good for me. But a lot of these things I didn't see the value in until much later. And one of these classes was innovation. It was a fine arts class. And the professor said that innovation is found when two disciplines merge. when they intersect. Like, for example, bioengineering and software engineering. Right? They now have, or the medical field in software engineering, they now have AI that can read X-rays and find cancer in a better percentage than trained professionals can. Right? It's amazing. But it's those two disciplines coming together and finding a touch point where they can be innovative. Now you can do that on a smaller scale in your company when your skill intersects with somebody else's skill, like a marketing skill or an HR skill or purchasing skill. And so finding those pain points creates opportunities where you can shine. So. All right. Let's see. We talked about the skills on this one already, right? Any questions on creativity, problem solving, managing vision, purpose, planning, dealing with paradox, or innovation management? Okay. Any general Q&A? Yes.
The now and the next, just to go back, sorry. What was the concept behind that? Maybe you touched on that, I think.
Which one?
The bridging the gap between now and next.
Oh, yeah. So that's really what strategic thinking is, kind of in a nutshell, right? You are here, you want to go there, what does that take? What's the delta, right? And so that same strategic thinking we should also do on a smaller scale on ourselves, right? This is where I am right now with my career. This is where I want to be with my career. What is the delta? Once you understand the delta, then you can start working on it. And so, I mean, why are you at the company that you are right now? Why do you stay? What makes you stay? So, hopefully it's not just a paycheck, right? So, yeah, when I was taking my MBA, they talked about opportunities, threats. They had that matrix. Oh my goodness, now I don't remember. Does anyone remember that? SWOT. The SWOT, there you go. Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? It's that matrix that you fill out to kind of, it's a strategic exercise to fill in the gaps. What is the delta? How do you overcome that delta? So, thank you. That's exactly what I meant. See, I'm the smartest person in the room. But together we are, right? So, I think lastly, the last advice I would give you is to be optimistic and to be happy where you are. I think happiness starts with a smile on your face sometimes, right? It's a decision to be happy. People want to be with happy people. If there's a grouch in the office, you're going to avoid that person, the grouch. It's not fun to be with the grouch, even if you need them, right? You're going to do everything in your ability to avoid talking to the grouch in the office, even if it's going to talk and keep you an extra day of work, right? So be a happy person at work. I think it's very important. It's a decision that you make in your life. Sometimes you have to make that decision a little bit more often than others, but it's still a decision that you make, and it is super important. I know this is all soft skills, right? Extrovert kind of stuff. But I was not an extrovert when I started my career. I was very introverted. But with practice and decisions that you make in your life, you can make a difference, and you can all change. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it easily. So, yeah, be positive about your career path. Be positive about other people. Give them the benefit of the doubt, and you'll be able to make friends and be part of winning teams. Okay, that's it. That's what I got. That's my
Feel free, everyone, to grab some more pizza. I'm going to take just a minute and get back up there. We can do some drawings with some of these prizes. Also, swag that everyone's welcome to. All these baggies or stickers, the whole list of Google Cloud things, cheat sheets. Sure.